Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us this afternoon. Folks, we have a fantastic show for you. First and foremost, let's talk about the fact that civil rights leaders have met with President Biden this past Friday to talk about big issues. But the question becomes, is this the right time to negotiate with the administration? We'll have that conversation with Ashley Banks of the Griot. Also, let's talk about No Labels, how there is a new political group, not a new political party, that's looking to fill in the gaps for the 2024 presidential campaign. We'll have that conversation. Also, when we talk about Tiffany Haddish and Ari Spears and the disturbing video of them as they have been accused of sexual child abuse, molestation. We'll break down the information and, more importantly, have the conversation as to why pedophilia seems to be a growing trend in all of our communities. We'll have that conversation and a whole lot more. So stay with us. That's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversations this afternoon. Folks, we got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into it. The first conversation we want to have is about civil rights leaders from our legacy civil rights organizations, including the NAACP, the Urban League, and the National Action Network, decided to have a conversation, a major meeting with President Biden on this past Friday, a day after the president had called out MAGA Republicans for their attack on democracy. Now, this meeting, which was included, entailed a number of issues about situations and pressing concerns that Black community leaders and the Black community has been having. And so, as you can see there, folks, that was just a little bit of what the White House had pointed out, saying that they were serious about making the issues and the concerns of Black people in the country a major priority. Now, this is according to what was said and what was communicated by Reverend Al Sharpton, who serves as the founder of the National Action Network. Here to give us some more insight as to what this meeting was all about is Ashley Banks. She is a correspondent and she's one of the great reporters for thegriot.com. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. How are you feeling?
Hi, Farajii. I'm feeling well. Thanks so much for having me. Like you said, so last Friday, civil rights leaders like Al Sharpton, we had Mark Morial, the president of the National Urban League, and Derek Johnson of the NAACP, and many more Black leaders who met with the president Friday afternoon. And so after the meeting, there was a presser at the White House, which I attended. And basically got to speak to some of the leaders that you see right there on your screen. Mark Morial, he first spoke to reporters and he told us that there is essentially an attack on democracy here in the U.S. And he discussed how there has been a lot of voter suppression, a lot of laws, and some of these Republican-led states that are intimidating voters and preventing voters that look like you and I, Farajii, from casting a ballot this midterm election and future elections. And so that was one of the things that was discussed during the meeting with President Biden. They also discussed police brutality. So I spoke with Al Sharpton on the side, and he talked about how he is a little concerned with Biden's America's Safe Plan, where he's putting 10,000 more police officers on the streets. And so Sharpton's big concern is about holding these officers accountable and making sure we don't see any more Ahmaud Arbery's or Breonna Taylor situations. And obviously the list goes on with the victims of police brutality here in this country. And so another key issue that was discussed was the Mississippi water crisis. And so the NAACP president, Derek Johnson, who is from Mississippi, he was discussing that issue as well and how he wants to see something done. I mean, we are living in America. not in, another country somewhere where they don't have the money. We have the money to make sure that our cities, our states have clean water, running water for people to simply use. These are basic necessities, not something that's extraordinary. Another thing that I thought was interesting, and I spoke to Sharpton about this as well, he told me that he and the other leaders were thanking Biden for efforts to bring Brittany Griner home. And so I kind of pressed Al Sharpton to see if I can get anything, any updates as it concerns Brittany Griner. But of course, he said we cannot share any of that information. It's confidential information and could essentially compromise what's happening over there, the negotiations that are taking place to get her back. But he did say efforts are being made, and they thanked Biden for his support. But a lot was discussed during that meeting. So Farajii, it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens and what comes out of that.
So my question and concern is this the right time? And folks, I want you to join me as we had this conversation, and I want to give a shout out to the online culture crew to share your thoughts on this. My question is, Brittany, you said in your report on thegrio.com, folks, and y'all can check what Brittany wrote about this, because there pretty much a lot of folks gave statements as to what they felt like was a good meeting. I know Melanie Campbell mentioned that. She said this was a very good meeting, a productive meeting based on your report. But my question is, actually, is this the right time for us to have such a conversation? Because there is a growing number of people who are organizing. I'm talking about both Democrats and Republicans that are organizing around the country to say, you know what, we're not happy with the current state of politics in our country. We're going to start to become more proactive. We're not waiting on the White House. There's the group No Labels that is looking to, and we're going to talk about this in the next segment. No Labels, they're looking to possibly put up a presidential candidate if necessary. We talked about Andrew Yang's group when they're talking about starting a whole new political party. And one of the things that I noticed with Mr. Derek Johnson from the NAACP in your report was that he said, look, our effort is to get people to come out and vote November the 8th. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not an issue. Black people already vote. You know what I mean? So that's not a thing. What is there any radical effort that's going to be made, or are we just being essentially, hey, just wait and see how President Biden moves forward on our interests?
I think it's more of the former, and that's what some people have been critical of. Is this just more of the same, or we're having these meetings with the president, but we really don't see anything come out of it in a timely fashion? And so, yes, voting is a big thing. The midterm elections are around the corner, but essentially, is it going to make a difference is what some people are asking. They want to know, are policies really going to change if I cast this vote? Is the Biden administration going to do more for the Black community? Are these politicians that we're putting in place going to do more for the Black community? Or are we just going to see more of the same that has been happening in recent years? And so I was on your show, I think a couple of weeks ago, talking about Ben Jealous, my interview with him, and how he's been doing everything he could to get Black men to vote, because he says Black men don't vote as much as Black women when it comes to elections. And we discussed the fact that the reason why some people aren't casting a ballot, or even those who are casting a ballot, they are hopeless as it pertains to this country and as it pertains to politics, because there are so many issues that are plaguing our community. We need so much help. However, we're not receiving that help. And so many people say the elections are not necessarily the problem, it's the politicians, obviously, that are in place, the policies that are in place that need to be changed and revamped.
So, and that's the point. That's one of the big points that I want to. I feel like it's an outdated strategy. Now, I'm not asking for your input, because you're just reporting, giving us your what was said and what was done there. But it just feels like an outdated strategy, considering how everybody else is figuring out how they can radically change, and it's still like, okay, like you said in your report, Reverend Al Sharpton said, hey, look, the president assured me that our issues are a top priority. I mean, he said the same thing months ago. And I'm not throwing shade on him for everything he's done. I'm just saying that when it came down to two of the most important issues, it's crazy that you have to that some of our top leaders have to meet with the president and reemphasize voting and police reform. When those things happen, you know what I'm saying? You got to reemphasize, the Jackson water crisis, the Jackson, Mississippi water crisis. Those things happen. I mean, it just feels stale to me, Ashley. And right now, I'm looking at the bigger picture that people are saying enough is enough. And I'm talking about other folks. They're saying, look, enough is enough. We got to move forward on doing something. People, okay, we may not be able, I know some people are not, and some groups are not organizing around 2022 with this midterm. People are looking at 2024. And I'm asking a question for us as a people. In 2024, what do we want to put on the table besides just our agenda, right? So the Black agenda. Do we have any candidates? And I'm talking about whether it's a viable candidate for presidency or viable candidate in some way. Like, what are we putting up? Do we have a party? Do we have any type of organization that's going to show that we got some real skin in the game? And, and I think from what I got from all of these civil rights leaders, they were saying, look, we stand with the administration in protecting democracy. Like, respectfully, okay. Like, right? But does the administration stand with us in protecting our human and civil rights?
And that's the question. I mean, it goes back to that one interview Biden did on the campaign trail with the Breakfast Club or with Charlemagne the God. And he said, if you ain't Black, right, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black, essentially. And so a lot of people in the Black community already started giving this man the side eye while he was running for the presidency. So I would say a lot of people that I've spoken with in the Black community don't believe the Biden administration stands with the Black community. And like you're saying, some people do believe that this approach of having this Black agenda, going to the president and talking to him, it just makes no sense. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to come out of it. And Sharpton saying he was reassured by the president. To many people, that means absolutely nothing. But as we know, Sharpton comes from a different time than these new generations, people who are making radical change, right? He comes from a different time, a different place. And he has influence, right? He does have influence. He has these connections. But essentially, if many people in the Black community are under the assumption that the Biden administration does not stand with the Black community, and from what we've seen, it does not look like the administration stands with the Black community, then more than likely, we're probably not going to see the results we would like to see, especially after this meeting took place.
All right, so let me also ask you this question because I think it's important. Why wasn't Vice President Kamala Harris in the meeting?
I think that's a great question, one I cannot answer, but I think it would have been imperative, right, for her to be there.
Was she out of town? As far as you know, was she out of town?
I have no idea. Yeah, I can't answer that. I
thought that was interesting. I was looking at the number of people who were in the meeting. I was like,
Another event. I'm sure she's busy. She's a busy woman. She could have been at another event, but I think that should have been one that was top priority for her. So,
I mean, yeah, like she should have been there, considering that her support among Black people is slowly diminishing.
Oh yeah.
Right? I
think it was in the beginning before she was elected, to be honest. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take some quotes here from folks that are checking in from our online culture crew. Always good to hear from our folks. Janelle, thank you so much for checking in. You said it's a shame that they had to try to jam every possible issue into one meeting, and Biden. And Biden still hasn't met with the Poor People's Campaign. This is the perfect time to meet because we are the base. I wonder why they haven't met with Reverend William Barber. And I'm not expecting you to answer that, Brittany. Excuse me. But I think that is part of the issue. Like, not bringing all the right people to the table. It's more, and Reverend Sharpton said in your report, he was like, he called the family together. And I'm like, where the rest of the family?
Yeah, there should be more voices. We do have Reverend, William Barber, but there are others. Bring millennials, bring Gen Zers, bring people who want that radical change, right? You need people from all walks of life in
Right.
the Black community to have these real discussions, to have these changes that we want to see. But if you have the same people who have the same mindset that are really trying to bring about change, Reverend Al Sharpton and the others really want to see change. They're passionate about it, but I think it's important to also have other voices with them as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let me go to, I appreciate you, Janelle. Thank you so much. Holly, let's see what you got to say. Holly, you said Brittany Griner broke Russian law and got the harsh sentence of that country. It sucks, but it's not unfair. Well, she went to Russia at the very wrong time. And let me tell you that. She didn't know that they were going to kick off a war once she got there, but folks, I'm glad that that's a part of the conversation. You know what I mean? I'm glad that Reverend Sharpton brought that up. So I think on that issue, we just have to wait and see. You know what I mean? We can't. I don't want us to interfere in a situation because it's so delicate and sensitive. You know what I mean, Ashley?
Yeah, no, it is. It's a very delicate situation, and it sounds like the only way Brittany Griner will return to the U.S. is if they do like a prisoner swab. And there are other Americans over there. So it's basically like she's a part of a prisoner swap with other Americans. So if we can get other Americans back, then she can return. But it's a very sensitive topic. Nothing's guaranteed. And so at this time, the Biden administration has been hush-hush. And so most of the press, we have no idea what's taking place there. Like you said, it's just a wait and see situation. But in terms of what your viewer just said, sure. What she did, she broke the law. You break the law, there are consequences. But there have been people in her position that got a slap on the wrist and were able to go back home. But being in prison in Russia is not necessarily like being in prison in this country. I mean, our prison system is horrific. But it's a different situation because she's Black and she's a part of the LGBTQA community. And Russia is not a fan of either one of those identities. And so there are things that she could experience that would be unfair to a prisoner. It's one thing to break the law and serve your time. It's another thing to break the law, serve your time, and be tortured simply because you're Black and you're gay. And so what the Biden administration is trying to do, and other members, other Black politicians, they're just trying to get her back home so that she has somewhere to be safe. Even if she's in prison here, at least she's in a better position than she would be if she were there in a Russian prison.
Absolutely. Let me put out some more quotes, folks. Holly, thank you so much. Corinna, you said a close friend of mine had all of her remaining student loan debt erased thanks to the recent debt relief. Voting matters. She is free to run her business life now without that debt. Oh, okay. I agree. I'm not saying that that's not important. And I'm not saying that voting is not important, folks, because I know that, Corinna, you also say, can we secure the vote in 2022 first and foremost? There will be no 2024 if GOP wins this November. We need to fully comprehend and accept this very fact. I'm sorry, Corinna. Here's why. We say that every damn year. Every year it's always like, but can we get the vote? Can we get the vote? Because once they come in, I'm sorry. I'm at this point, and y'all feel me or not. Y'all could just say, Farajii, we totally disagree. Take the risk. Take the risk. I'm not worried about a vote for this election. We got a presidency. Who cares if the midterm, you know what I'm saying? Like, let the people gonna come out, right? I'm not worried as much as about the midterm. I'm looking at the presidency of the United States. Donald Trump is really thinking about still running in spite of all the stuff that's been with him. We still possibly may look at Biden running again. I'm looking at the fact that you got around this country that are saying we want an alternative candidate. Why shouldn't Black people not be a part of that conversation? I'm not saying voting isn't important, folks, but I'm just saying, like, we got to look. We always do this. We do the same strategy all the time. Let's get the vote. Let's get the vote. And okay, Black people vote. We do come out and vote. We come out and vote in big numbers. I would say vote locally, or then vote. If you don't want to vote nationally, okay, but vote locally. Go into your local. Make sure that your state representatives, your governor, your local legislators, make sure that they get the necessary support from you if they fit your interest. But at this point, it's like we can't keep doing the same thing expecting different results, because that's the definition of insanity. I don't know. I mean, actually, I'm just in the space like, what the hell? Like,
you're not alone. A lot of people are fed up, and I've had conversations with my friends, with strangers, over the years as it pertains to elections. And we all know politicians promise you one thing when they get in office is a different story, and obviously they're fighting with different parts of the government, and there are politics in politics, so we get it. But at the same time, like you're saying, people are fed up. They are sick of the same thing. Cast your vote and your wishes will be granted, and that just doesn't happen.
Let me tell you, Ashley, when I saw Mr. Derek Johnson from the NAACP say that, let's cast a vote and let's show them that we protect democracy. Respectfully, Mr. Johnson, that's not it. That's not it. Because here's why. Here's why. And this is part of the reason why I think that when we're behind the 8 ball politically in this country. The part of the reason is we just think that it's all just about voting. We're not talking about putting no money in no candidate's pocket, so that way when they get to the big boys, they still are held accountable to us. We're not talking enough about that. We're not talking about putting the candidates in with a real agenda outside of, hey, make sure y'all don't do something about police reform. We're not putting in them. We're not putting a fire to their asses about our interests. We're still not. It's still like the vote, and the vote is not the end all be all in politics and civic engagement. It's not the end all be all, folks. I know some of you probably don't like to hear that, and y'all probably upset with me, but come on. You're talking about protecting democracy. We got real forces in this country where they don't give a damn about the Constitution. There is a group of Republicans right now, and I'm trying to get some voices on this so we can talk about it this week, Ashley. And I don't know if you guys will be able to cover it or not. But there is a group of Republicans right now in Congress that is looking to organize a second constitutional convention. And the convention will be to amend the Constitution based on their interests and their desires. A second constitutional convention. You know, the last time we've had a constitutional convention in this country where we're legitimately trying to gut out or rethink how this country is governed, that's a problem. And you got Republicans moving in this direction. I'm talking about people like Rick Santorum and others who are saying, look, we need to have a constitutional convention. And all we're being told is to vote when they don't even give a damn about the laws.
They're above the law, apparently. But like you're saying, there's more that can be done. Especially when it comes to just holding the politicians accountable. I mean, it's hard, obviously, to hold Biden accountable, but that would take the masses to do something. But as it pertains to local politicians, if you voted someone in office, you can hold them accountable. There are things that can be done to make sure that they are working for you. At the end of the day, you as the voter voted them in, right? And so it is your job still to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing for your city, your town, or whatever. But a lot of people don't realize the power that they have. A lot of us don't realize we have influence over what is taking place in our cities and our states. Yes, there's corruption. Yes, there's politics. Yes, there are other things. But if we work together, like you said, if there is an agenda, if there are things in place, things can be done. Things can be accomplished. But a lot of people just cast their vote and move on with their lives. They just continue to work, trusting their politician, hoping that they'll work for them. And that's not what happens most of the time.
Right. And that is the issue as to why we're seeing us in this space, right? because I'm tired of waiting and seeing what the Biden administration is going to do. He got, what's this, 2022? He got like 2 years or a little bit less than 2 years, right? And we got all these issues on the table. And you mean 2 years after he's been in office, we still gotta have a reminder meeting. Hey, Mr. President, don't forget about these things for the Black community. I got you. Yeah, y'all priority. We don't know what coming down the pipe. We just started. I mean, the country literally just sent 40 plus billion, probably more at this point, to Ukraine. And we can't even get a vote on voting. But we got you. We got you. I'm just trying to put this in a proper perspective because it gets frustrating. And I think, with all due respect to my beloved civil rights leaders, I think this is the wrong time to try to negotiate at this point. We got to, if that is happening, and Ashley, you tell me if I'm wrong and answer my next question. If they're meeting with the president, then what is the grassroots focus on? Because it's got to be a multi-pronged approach to dealing with the issues that Black people are facing in this country. While they're meeting with the president saying, hey, Mr. President, we're going to keep this fire on your ass. We're going to keep you accountable. Is there a wing of the National Action Network, the NAACP, and other groups that were there, of young people or people in general who are on the ground saying, all right, look, they talking, but what about the grassroots? Let's organize. What about somebody needs to be talking to our Black celebrities and say, look, what do you think about the idea of putting your money and your resources behind a Black political organization, a national Black political organization that is going to help to disrupt this system of things come 2024? Like, are we having multiple conversations, or are we placing all of our eggs in one basket, in the Biden-Harris basket at this point?
No, it's a great question. So far, I haven't heard anything as it pertains to grassroots folks. So yeah, not too sure about that one, Farajii. You got me there. Yeah.
Look, this is serious. Ashley, I appreciate you. I know you got to hop off, but I thank you. I'm so happy that you're still able to join us. I know you're doing some great work over at the Griot, and you did a great report on this meeting. And folks, y'all can check her out. Her latest report about the Black civil rights leaders meeting with the president on thegriot.com. But Ashley, I appreciate you, sis. Thank you so much for checking in.
Thank you, Farajii.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let me talk about No Labels. This is a group that's looking to do something as an alternative to what we're currently facing in the next 2024 presidential campaign. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show. We've been talking about a number of issues as we had just gotten finished our conversation with Ashley Banks of the Griot to talk about her report about civil rights leaders meeting with President Biden. Many of you are checking in on our YouTube page and on our Facebook page and just sharing thoughts about a variety of issues, some of the big issues that were brought up in that conversation. But I wanted to have another discussion as we're talking about this. And here's this. And this is just something for us to consider as we're moving this whole process forward, which is the fact that you have groups. And I want y'all to take a look at this. I'm going to pull this up real quick. Keena, let's talk about this. Look at this. This came out in the New York Times. This was an op-ed by David Brooks, who was a New York Times columnist. He said, if an alternative candidate is needed in 2024, these folks will be ready. Let me just share with you very quickly what Mr. Brooks said. He said, the group No Labels has been working quietly over the past 10 months to give Americans a third viable option. The group calls its work an insurance policy if one of the parties nominate a candidate acceptable to the center of the electorate, then the presidential operation will shut down. But if both parties go to the extreme, then there will be a unity ticket appealing to both Democrats and Republicans to combat this period of polarized dysfunction. Now, let me share this with you as well, folks. Take a look at this. The No Labels operation, y'all can check them out. But the No Labels operation, and Keenan, if we can put the second quote up on here, let me share with you what some of the big, I guess their strategy is on this whole process. The No Labels operation, a $70 million effort, which $46 million has already been raised or pledged. It has 4 main prongs. Check this out. Here's the 4 main prongs. And Keenan, when you get that quote, just throw this on here. There we go. Thank you, brother. You said the 4 main prongs of this No Labels operation. 1, to gain ballot access for a prospective third candidate in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. The group already has over 100,000 signatures in Ohio, for example, and 47,000 signatures in Arizona. 2, to create a database on those Americans who would support a unity ticket. The group's research suggests that there are 64.5 million voters who would support such an effort. 3, Take a look. The third thing they said, to find a policy agenda that appeals to unity voters. And 4, to create an infrastructure to nominate and support a potential candidate. There's already a network of state co-chairs and local volunteers. Many of them are regular Americans, while others are notables like Mike Rawlins, a Democrat and a former mayor of Dallas, the civil rights leader Benjamin Chavis, who served as the leader of the NAACP, and Dennis Blair, a former director of national intelligence. These are the people that are deciding to say, these are Democrats, Republicans, and independents who are saying, look, this is not a new political party. This is an insurance policy that if the Democrats and the Republicans go to two extreme places, that you have a middle of the line candidate. And look at the people who they might possibly consider. A member of a person who ran the NAACP, Ben Chavis, person who's been doing work. He was the co-chair for the historic Million Man March in 1995. I mean, if other groups are putting together platforms and operations like this, what's stopping Black people from doing the same thing? And that's why I'm pushing back on this meeting that civil rights leaders are having, because I'm seeing it, folks. I'm seeing whether it's No Label, Andrew Yang's third political party with Republicans and Democrats, people are organizing. They're not waiting. They're organizing. They're saying to themselves, you know what? If we want to change the political situation in our country, then we're going to have to, get more engaged. We're going to have to do this on our own. That's what people are saying. And it puts us as a people and as a community, a group of folks in this country, we're waiting and seeing. We're waiting and seeing, folks. And I can't tell you, I think that's out of that's not the time that we're in this country. You want to talk about protecting democracy. You want to know what protecting democracy? Democracy can be protected, but you got to know, it's like, if you there's that saying that and I'm just want to make sure I'm saying it right, folks. When an idea whose time has come, when there's an idea whose time has come, then it's going to flourish. It's going to take root. And at this point, the idea, the approach that we're seeing that Black civil rights, Black leaders taking versus what we're seeing based on other people, which idea is going to bear more fruit? I want you to join me in this conversation really quickly, folks, as we talk about this, because I've been thinking about this the whole weekend, and I'm like, man, are we behind the 8 ball again? Are we waiting? Are we hoping? Are we expecting for an administration to give us what we know it's the right thing to do? This administration, and of course, it's not always the whole administration, it's Congress as well. But if you're not getting if you're not getting something from a relationship, do you stay in that relationship? I mean, after you talk to your partner about what you are missing, what you would like to see about the evolution of the relationship, how long do you stay in the relationship? How long do you keep asking the United States government, are you thinking about the concerns and needs of Black people in this country? How long? When everybody else is saying, and look, they haven't even been under as much oppression that we have. You got white Republicans, white Democrats that are saying, you know what? We're moving on to something else. Now, some of us, you might say, well, it will never happen. A third party, it will never happen. This new labels group, they're talking about a third alternative candidate. Oh, nobody's going to support that. It's not the fact that it will never happen. It's the fact that they're moving out on a different idea. They're saying, okay, you want to protect democracy? Democracy needs to evolve. You want to protect democracy, then there needs to be voices for other people in the democratic space, right? You want to protect democracy, then you really need to call to account. You need to be held accountable for what you have done and what you're not doing right now. Am I wrong in thinking this? Let me know if I'm wrong, folks. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let's hear from what you got to say. So many of you are checking in. I truly appreciate you. Mike V, not going to happen. This is what you say, Mike. The system is designed for two parties. Either you're a member of either party or you're not participating within the system. This isn't a parliamentary system. Okay. But Mike, what about growth, evolution? You mean to tell me that this is it? So we should just shut up and sit down and take it. That's all we do. Keep asking, keep hoping, wishing upon a star that somebody is going to do. Let's just go out and vote and then come back home and say, we did our due diligence. We took our civic engagement. We did our thing for our country and go back to what we were doing before. That's it. Or do we see people thought, here's the thing, Mike, and I know, brother, you join us in the conversation. So I know you always bring up some great topics, great points here. This is the pushback I have on this. People thought the same way before the civil rights movement. The system is not designed to include former slaves. I bet you people thought that at that time. Nope. Black people, this is your caste. White people are here. I'm sorry, black people. That's your lot in life, is to be in this position. But somebody, visionaries, pushed that idea, broke through those boundaries, and we got a system that we're in today, right? We got a little further along than we were 50, 60 years ago. So you mean to tell me, and let's look at this. If this is an experiment, as they often say, this is the American democratic experiment. Since this is an experiment, let's experiment with a new idea that will push this country into a more progressive place. Let's experiment with that. Why not? Why not? If it doesn't work, then we can at least say we tried. But and this is just in general, I hate going through life thinking something that doesn't work and I haven't even tried it yet. Do you teach your children to think like that? Don't try it because it won't work. Are we afraid to try something different? Are we afraid to think outside of the box? Are we afraid, as crazy as it sounds, that it might actually work? Let's go back to what you got to say. Corner, you said our perpetual argument of the tactics instead of a laser focus to implement strategy further delays our progress while we drown ourselves in unrealistic expectations. We got to work with what we got. Wow. What are we working with, Corinna? What are we working with? I'm talking about in the next 2 years, we're going to be choosing president. That's substantive. That's not fantasy. That's not unrealistic expectations. What do we expect in the next 2 years to put another Democrat in? If Biden said we're going to just vote for Biden again. And then what? If the Republicans are moving the way they're moving, constitutional convention, they don't give a damn about law and order. They are looking to change the laws from this local to the state level. And we're moving in the same way. Our warfare is the same strategy that we have been implementing for the past 20 years. I ain't going past 50. I'm not talking 50. I'm talking about past 20 years. In warfare, your strategy changes based upon the landscape, based upon the terrain, based upon the enemy. This enemy of Black interest, the enemy of democracy, is not playing by the same rules. So why are we still expecting them to play by the same rules? Why are we still operating as if they care about rules? They are lying to our faces. They are telling us they are showing us exactly who they are. And we still want to operate from a space of, well, if we just vote them out. They don't even care about the damn vote, man. When I saw Kevin McCarthy talking about how he embraced Trump's stance on the FBI, against the FBI and the classified documents, y'all are supposed to be the party of law and order, and you going against law enforcement. your law enforcement institution. Because black people, we ain't set that up. That's what y'all set up. You're going against your own Department of Justice. And yet, you want us to believe if you can go against your own Department of Justice, your own law enforcement institution, that you're going to respect our concerns. What do we got to work with, Corinna? I don't know. Because they playing by a different rule of engagement at this point. You don't like my music. You checked in and said working class people need to unite and recognize our common interests. I'm not talking about socialism unless economic justice means socialism. You know, I'm not thinking about labels. I'm not thinking about terminology. I'm thinking about ideas and principles, right? So, yeah, working class people, whether you white, black, Latino, Native American, Asian, whether you working, if you're working class, that's probably all of us, right? Working class people, we do need to unite because it is on our backs that this country has been built. And you're talking about economic justice? Hell yeah. The disparity of economics in this country is absolutely insane, folks. And we all know it. And we can't wait on the government to try to stem the tide. Why? Because the government is trying to figure out everything from domestic terrorism. They're trying to keep their own institutions up. At some point, the people's got to say, you know what, we got to be a part of this process as well. We can't wait. You don't like my music. I appreciate you. Bobby Seller, excuse me. You said we have to vote in the midterms. Policy will be affected from the midterm result. Okay, and then what? I'm not here to rain on nobody's parade, folks. I hate that. I don't want to take your hope. I don't want to be that person. But you can't just tell me to vote. Where's the money? Are we going to put some money into anybody's pocket to ensure that our vote becomes a reality? Where's the agenda? I'm not just talking about, hey, we need good schools and we need smoother roads and we need to police to accept us. I mean, I'm talking about, that's quality of life stuff. That's obvious, right? I'm talking about specific agenda items. Are we talking reparations? Are we talking about uprooting systemic justice in some of these state and local institutions, right? Social services and other institutions that govern us. What are we voting? What are we sending? Who are we sending to our state houses, to City Hall, to the State House, to Washington? Are we developing the next generation of candidates? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting prepared in that way. Let's see. I appreciate you, Bobby. Thank you. Tiana, you checked in and said Al Gore would have been president if it wasn't that damn third person. Okay. Hey, folks, let me tell you something. Let me tell y'all something. This is how I believe. And this is, y'all gonna ride with me or not on this one. I'm willing to take the risk. I'm willing to take the risk. I'm at this point, and this might sound really radical to some of you. I'm willing to take the risk. I'm talking about preparing for 2024. I'm not saying throwing that away. Okay, say if we lose the election. Look, the way the country is going, we're losing anyway. We're losing anyway. What is going to be our 2024 stance? It can't just be, well, we waiting on to see if Biden's going to run. It just can't just be that. Literally, people are organized. Y'all understand what I'm saying? People are organizing to possibly put up a 2024 candidate, alternative candidates. If there are enough alternative candidates, it may shift the vote. It may cause the major parties to be like, look, we got to figure something out because the people are not happy. Hotep Pan-Africans, you said we must cultivate our own candidates as every other group does, convene a think tank in your area, then merge our political platforms to create a nationally unified voting bloc where they intersect. That's political activism right there. What you talking about, Hotep? That's political activism. It's not, and if we use it within the boundaries of how people are doing it, again, folks are creating alternative voices. They're creating alternative paths. And we're the only ones, and everybody else is like, okay, the rules of the game has changed, so we're going to adjust to the rules. We seem to be the only group of people right now that's being like, well, no, we're still operating off of the rules, guys. Hey, we're still operating off the same rules. We're just going to keep our hope in these rules. And I know this is scary, but we can do this. We really can do this. We have the intelligence. We damn sure got the resources. We just got to have the political and the emotional and the social will to say, I want a new reality in this country. We just got to say that. Hotep, appreciate you. Peter, you checked in and said, this is the best system yet. Let's fix it. Look to yourself first. That's fine. But we all know that this system needs to evolve. Something's got to give. Because we're going to pass this same system on to our children. I don't want my children to be mad at me for passing on this. 20, 25 years, we still talking about voting rights. 20, 25 years, we still talking about police reform. 20, 25 years, we talking about healthcare equity, healthcare being equitable. 20, 25 years, we still talking about educational equity, educational issues. So 20, 25 years, come on, man. Come on. When does this start to get fixed? Let me see who else we got. McCole, you checked in and said we can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. We have to have fresh strategies, fresh vision, and new people to accomplish what we need to accomplish as Black people and a nation. Fact. That's all I'm saying. Where's the fresh approach, fresh strategies? Where are the fresh voices, fresh faces? We got them. We got to look around the country, but we got them. And I'm not talking about they always got to be in their 20s and 30s. I'm talking about they could be 40s and 50s operating right now. But there has to be somebody's that has to rise up and say, we need to deal with this. Appreciate you, McCole. Thank you. Will NC1, Willie, I think it's this. Oh, okay. Will NC100. I've been one who said, just as you just said, why can't we Black Americans have our own political party? Because, I mean, to some of us, that's scary. That's scary, Will. To some of us, we so conditioned that we can't see outside of this system of things. And that's why it's important that when individuals come before us and they offer us new ideas, that we just don't shoot them out the sky. We just don't blast them for thinking crazy. Because if you think about every great human movement in this country, when there was chattel slavery, somebody thought that you remember, people thought, well, slavery, that's the only way, the only system of things. No. Can you imagine the people talking to Harriet Tubman about liberation? No, Harriet, you crazy. You might as well just chill right here. And I'm just, of course, paraphrasing, like, Harriet, you crazy. You going back and forth in that Underground Railroad, you gonna get yourself on somebody killed. Look, why don't we just stay back? They probably said all types of madness to our system. But somebody's got to press the boundaries. Somebody's got to have a different vision and say, you know what? Enough is enough. That's why I'm rocking my Justice Little L shirt today, folks. Enough is enough in this country. And if we don't see that, if we don't see the time and what must be really done right now, this is very serious. I'm very passionate about this because I don't want to have to go through this year after year. Look how much pain we have been enduring. Look how much drama we have been enduring. Look how many promises that have been made and have yet to be fulfilled as a result of our hope. And all we want is just to be seen as human beings. And we're going through this every single damn day in this country. And we constantly are being put on the back burner. We're constantly being told, just wait and see. Hold on, we're going to get to your problems. We're going to get to them. Come on, man. Let's keep it going real quick. Real Brooklyn. Democracy is an idea and always has been an idea. There's nothing democratic about America. How can this be a democracy when the electoral is still in play when it comes to picking a president? Or we can have that conversation all day, Real Brooklyn. You know how that is. The Electoral College, we can have that conversation. Maybe that That could be our push as part of a nation of marginalized people, whether you're black or white or Latino. If you marginalize in this country, you say, well, look, let's get rid of the electoral college. Let the people decide, not just a few number of folks. We can have that conversation all day. I'm with it. I'm with it. All right, let me get one more before we wrap up, folks. One more, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Even though if we don't always agree, I appreciate you at least being a part of the conversation. Here, who else we got? I want to say Southern Belle. Southern Belle, let's put Southern Belle up. You said this man is talking about self-preservation. Never mind labels. Black folks must preserve ourselves. Hell yeah, I'm talking about self-preservation. I mean, that's what it is. Everybody else is talking about self-preservation. What do you think the Republicans are operating on right now? Preserving their own interests. Can you be mad? Why do we get mad when somebody speaks up for themselves? Why do we get shot? If you're out there in the wilderness, in the jungle, right? Isn't the rules of the jungle eat or be eaten? It's real simple. Republicans are looking at eating. Some of these Democrats are looking at be eating. Black folks, are we trying to be at the table or on the menu? Are we trying to eat or are we going to be eaten? That's the situation we in right now. That's the dire crisis that we in. I am tired of being eaten. People picking us apart, using us and abusing us, taking us for granted. I'm tired of it. They get our vote, then you don't see them no more. They speak the language of our interests and issues, but don't put no real policy behind it. Right? They want to stand with us when it's convenient, but don't want to serve us when it's not convenient. We either eat or be eaten. Sophia, final thing. You said, why do we have to believe? I prefer the term defend, because they have and will continue to torment us. So until you change game, keep hating the player. Look, man, I ain't hating no player at this point. I'm trying to get us actively involved in this situation. We're in a very, very serious situation. This ain't about hating anybody. I'm not hating no one who speaks up for their interests. That would be foolish, because that's exactly what I want us to do. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm speaking up for the interests of my people. I'm speaking up for the interests of my children and your children. I'm speaking up for the interests of people who have been marginalized and neglected in this country. If you hate somebody for speaking up for their own interests, that's foolish. That's foolish. At this point, we need to figure out what our interests are. We got all those items on the black agenda. Then we got to figure out who's going to bring those items, who's going to bring those ideas into reality. That's the place we in right now. That's the place, folks. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to check in with Culture crew member Lise Winnie. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to switch gears, have a conversation about Tiffany Haddish and Ari Spears. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Had to change some things technically because color was off, everything was off. But I hope and pray that you enjoyed the first hour as we talked a little bit about the political space that we're in right now. The first hour, we talked about civil rights leaders meeting with President Biden. And I shared with you just a little bit about how another political organization by the name of No Labels has decided to move forward on possibly filling in the gap. If they said that if there are two extreme candidates for the Democrat and the Republicans that may come up in the 2024 election cycle, that they're going to be ready to fill in the gaps. And so talking about what that looks like, and more importantly, the implication that would have on our interests as Black folks in this country, it once again raises the question, what are we going to do to prepare for 2024? What are we going to do? How we make sure that we're not just talking to the president about the issues, but there's got to be another approach where we're organizing maybe with the next generation on the grassroots level. We're bringing in some money and resources from our Black entertainment group. We're reaching out to the Black intelligentsia among us to create and to solidify a program and agenda on items. We're sending some people to Washington. We're sending some people in. We have to now get out of the space of waiting for candidates to rise up and start to cultivate create our own candidates that speak to our interests, that are going to be unfiltered, unadulterated, unbought, uncompromised, as we want them to be, and still speak to the interest of the American people. Because what? Black folks' interests, at the root of it, if you speak to the interests of Black people in this country, you're going to touch on all of the other folks in this country. You're going to speak to all of their interests on this country. So we have to have a conversation about that. All right, we're going to move forward because there's another big discussion that's happening, and I'm sure that many of you have checked in to look at this latest situation around Tiffany Haddish, comedian and actress Tiffany Haddish, and comedian and actor Ari Spears. Both are accused of sexual abuse, child sexual abuse, for a skit that they did about 8 years ago, a skit that they filmed where they called it Through a Pedophile's Eyes. Lord. Now, at first, when the two young people that were involved, they called Jane and John Doe. Jane Doe has come out and filed a lawsuit against the two comedians, saying that something needs to be done, that essentially that these comedians need to be prosecuted and arrested for child molestation and child sex abuse. Very, very serious charges that this lawsuit is alleging against Tiffany Haddish and Ari Spears. And Jane Doe said in her lawsuit that she was basically called to be a part of a production that was put out to her mother and to her and her little brother, who is John Doe, as an opportunity to get them further along into the entertainment field. That as a result of a friendship between Tiffany Haddish and the mother, that they would have some doors open for them. And so they were invited to do a sketch, not knowing all of the details, not given all of the details. They were invited to do a sketch, and the sketch ended up being a sketch about pedophilia. But it was supposed to be funny. At first, Tiffany Haddish's attorney has came out on record to say that this was a bogus claim, that this woman, the mother of Jane Doe, has been trying to get something done, the courts to do something, but this is a shakedown. This is a shakedown, that this is not, Tiffany was not involved. Ari Spears, the attorney, said the same thing. This is a shakedown by this mother. But then, nearly the same day, hours later, after Tiffany Haddish's attorney said that, Tiffany Haddish came out and apologized and shared on her Instagram post. Take a look at this Instagram post, folks, that Tiffany put out there, and I want to make sure that we pull it up. Look, she said, "I know people have a bunch of questions. I get it. I'm right there with you. Unfortunately, because there's an ongoing legal case, there's very little that I can say right now. But clearly, while this sketch was intended to be comedic, it wasn't funny at all, and I deeply regret having agreed to act in it. I really look forward to being able to share a lot more about this situation as soon as I can." She has turned off the comments on her IG for this post. In the court of public opinion, Tiffany Haddish and Ari Spears are already guilty of child molestation and sexual abuse. I wanted to have a conversation with you, and I wanted to bring in our culture crew member, Lise Winnie, host of Millennials Anonymous podcast, to give us some insight into this. Lise, thank you so much for joining us today. Very serious situation here. This is very serious. You know, this is one of those things, and I'm certainly not trying to be funny. You could be a murderer and wouldn't be scrutinized like this. But correct. And I'm glad that there is great scrutiny. But in the court of public opinion, Tiffany Haddish and Ari Spears are already guilty.
I agree, and I think that they have a lot to definitely to their fans and to people who really supported them. A lot of people were very, very disappointed in Tiffany Haddish because of where she came from. You know, Tiffany Haddish is from the foster care system, so she's been able to beat a bunch of different things. So the fact that we now are seeing this come out is problematic. So they do have a lot to speak to their fans and to the public about what actually happened, because the initial commercial, it was like a sandwich commercial with the girl who was a teenager at the time. And, you know, Tiffany Haddish was supposedly having the girl emulating certain acts on the sandwich, not necessarily her or Ari Spears. And then the second video was actually done with the 7-year-old, or her brother, who was 7 at the time, which therefore Ari Spears played a pedophile in the actual video. But both videos were uploaded and then taken down in 2013. It was on another platform, and it was when people started to complain then that that platform actually took it down. So the fact that this is just coming out is amazing, that we're just hearing about this now, given the fact that this mother, who was a friend of Tiffany Haddish and has been suing her for years, like, this isn't something that just came out of the blue. Like, she has been trying to actively sue her for not for criminal charges, but actually for compensation for years. So the fact that we have not heard about it until now is a little concerning to me. But Tiffany Haddish and Ari Spears, I mean, Ari's been done for a minute, but I think Tiffany might be in some trouble. I think she's in some trouble.
See, and let me tell you, and at least, you know, you and I, we both kind of keep our pulse on what people are talking about in the culture. Once you get a label of child molester, child sex abuse, anything of that nature or attached to you, nobody is really going to work with you. You know, I was on Twitter late last night, just looking at the comments and the reaction. And I mean, when I say people were going there, I really didn't see too many people defending her. I mean, first of all, people were already talking about how unfunny she was. Then second of all, people are like, hey, she always seemed off to me from some of the past comments that she has made about a number of other sensitive topics. So people are like, I'm not surprised she's in the space. I think it's absolutely, I think there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had about how more, I would say, we're hearing more and more common stories of pedophilia now than we've probably heard in a long time. Last night, really, and this is interesting, as I was reading more about this Tiffany Haddish story and Ari Spears, there is a new show that's on, and I'm thinking either on HBO Max, or there's a docuseries called Keep This Between Us. And it talks about how a young girl was groomed when she was in high school at the age of 16 by her teacher. And talking about the impact of that, how she's addressed, you know, how she's facing all of that, going back to family and friends. And I'm like, man, this is a lot bigger than I think people want to believe, that this is happening all over the country. And just because you're famous, it doesn't make you immune.
Agreed. I think we do need to have a bigger conversation, not just about, you know, what happened with Tiffany Haddish, but the way that we view children and overly sexualize, especially African-American or Black children, specifically Black girls, in this country. We do it a lot. And I think that that's a conversation that we do need to have in the open, that happens too often, where our young girls, their childhood is cut so short already. So we need to be doing more in order to protect them. But I think we also need to have a conversation as parents about the fact that the mother did not have all the details. You cannot send your children out there in the world, especially in Hollywood, and not get details. Like, what is this commercial? Where, I get that they were friends, but we still need to be protecting our children, and not to defend what Tiffany Haddish did at all. But I think that as parents, those are the questions that we have to start asking, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a friend, whether it's your cousin. We do need to start asking questions about what is going on, where are you going, how long you going to be gone, what you're going to be doing. Like, those are questions that we need to ask. And it's okay to have those questions and allow the children to also say no, because did these children want to do this, or is this, like, we need to have all of those conversations need to be open.
And you know what, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, Lise. And I think the other part of it, which makes this even more complex because there's the assumption that if you're famous, if you have notoriety, that you have a certain moral compass, right? And when I listen to the stories of any victims or the accounts of victims, and when it comes to high profile celebrities and entertainers, there is an automatic trust, like our walls are down. Mm-hmm. That when it comes to, hey, you know, if your child is approached by a high profile or a celebrity and they're acknowledged for their talent, their skill, whether it's in, you know, arts or whether it's in sports, you're not thinking this person may be a predator. This person may do harm to my child because this person is famous. They wouldn't be getting this millions of dollars, and they wouldn't be seen and loved and admired and doing some violations against children. Not at all. We don't think like that. And I mean, I understand it. Mm-hmm. But now the conversation, to your point, has to be had, like, regardless of where your lot is, what your status is in life, you still got to be careful around strangers. You still have to watch, you know, your children need to be supervised when they're alone with adults, right? Like these conversations still need to be had, but I just wanted to point out the fact that fame can blind us to a lot of this. Notoriety can blind us to a lot of this. And you know, I know in a case like this, and I'm seeing some of the comments now on our YouTube page, folks say, oh, well, you know, the mother signed the contract. Again, if you're friends with a celebrity, if you're friends with, and I'm not putting no name, I'm just saying, if you're friends with a high profile comedian, mm-hmm. and they come to you with an opportunity to be in a skit. Hey, I got this great skit for your child. Would you mind? We'll do something. And they selling it. You're not going to be like, well, let me ask you a question. Are you a child abuser? Are you a molester? Nobody. You're not thinking like that.
No, but I think that had she asked some details, like, what is this? Like, what is it? And I don't think that was clear. Like, when you're reading some of these documents, it's not really clear whether or not she knew what she was sending her children off to do. And I think a lot of it, you're right, it was about the familiarity. Not only were they friends, but they also, it's, you know, her from television or wherever. And it's like, oh, I've seen Ari Spears on Man TV and other places. You have this familiarity complex where it's like, oh, I know them because I've seen them. And so therefore you do have your guard down. So I think there probably was a bit of that. And it probably was a bit of blinding too. Like, I just want my kids to be famous and rich. It could have been some of that, but it does not take away from the fact that Tiffany Haddish and Ari Spears were the adults in the situation. They were the adults in the room, and they were wrong. When they were recording this and filming this, she knew it was wrong. Like, Ari Spears knew it was wrong. And I get that comedians have a different sense, or can have a different sense of humor, and that they have a different way of explaining things. Comedy comes from pain, whether you know it or not. Everybody doesn't get a chance to experience happiness and joy, but everybody can relate to frustration and pain. So I understand that sometimes you will take a level of complex material and make it funny. But when you're dealing with children, like, if they would have did this themselves, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Tiffany Haddish could have played a whatever. If she wanted to play a teenager, that could have been on Tiffany Haddish. But they didn't do that. They actually took minors into this situation, which made it inappropriate and wrong.
If and we're going to take some comments from our watchers in a moment, but the Daily Beast is the media outlet that first reported this. So if you go into the Daily Beast and check it out, in that story, Lise, and I don't know if you had a chance to read it, like, it goes into pretty graphic details as to what Jane Doe and John Doe experienced as a result of their interaction with the comedians, even as far as to say that Jane says she was told as a little girl to eat a Subway sandwich as if she's performing fellatio, and Tiffany Haddish showed her how to do that. John Doe had to rub baby oil on Ari Spears. I mean, it gets into some very, very graphic things. And some of the things that was pointed out in that lawsuit as well from Jane Doe is that, you know, her brother is traumatized from that he goes as far as to put pieces of tape over cameras because he doesn't like to be photographed anymore. That he feels like he can't trust adults. He's gone to therapy. And I'm just thinking to myself, and I know people are asking, well, where are the facts? Is this all for real? And all of that. If somebody is going to file a lawsuit in the court system, now they could be lying.
You can file a lawsuit for absolutely anything. So let me stop there.
Anything, right? But here's the thing. The thing is, Tiffany came out herself
and apologized.
Now, Aries hasn't put out an apology statement. But Tiffany came out herself.
Well, Aries has been in some trouble recently with Lizzo. So I think he's trying to just take cover.
He body shamed Lizzo, which is funny considering he ain't in the best shape.
Well, he said he was attractive, which I was like, to who? Aries? Like, but you know, God make everything beautiful. Let's just leave that. There you go.
So I just, that's a good way of saying it, at least. Yeah. But I mean, we know that there was something that happened. It got to Tiffany's conscience because she came out with saying, "I deeply regret it." So we know something happened.
The video existed. I think that's
the video. Look, last night somebody posted it on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. That's now, what it was.
Now, when it was originally posted, it was posted on a Funny or Die, which is the platform for comedians to create all of this kind of crazy, funny content, right? Mm-hmm. And many of you have already checked in and said, who would think this was funny? And when I saw the video, and look, and this is why, y'all, this is my policy. When it gets to certain things, I don't need to see it to believe it. I just don't need it. Literally, I clicked the video on, Lise. The first 10 to 15 seconds I saw, the little boy had his briefs on, and Aries Spears had this look on his face like, I had to turn it off.
Yeah, I don't understand the humor in that, like I said, because you're dealing with actual minors. So you're talking about something that is in fact a crime in the way that it is funny, but you are emulating the crime as you are doing it. So I was like, that's on camera being recorded. So I think the issue with Tiffany Haddish has something to lose. Aries Spears, yes, he's famous, he's a celebrity, but he hasn't been out in a long time. So when you're dealing with Tiffany Haddish on the level that since Girls Trip, she like skyrocketed. And so now she has something to lose. And now that video has resurfaced, it's kind of hard to sit there and keep saying, I didn't do this. She had to come out and say something after people started to look for that video. And I think that Tiffany Haddish, her career is in trouble. And like you said, for the longest time, Tiffany Haddish has faced a ton of hate about how funny she is or she isn't. The videos of Cat Williams when he was on Frank Ski's morning show has resurfaced, which, you know, I got a chance to talk to him too. That was an interesting conversation or day, but that's now resurfaced about
what of Cat Williams when he was on that. What was that? Was that Frank Ski or was that Maria?
That was Frank Ski where he went. They got into it. Him and I cannot think of Wanda. I believe is her name.
Wanda.
They got into it. But yes,
when you talk about Tiffany Haddish not being funny,
that's now resurfacing. It is trending and it's viral. I saw that last night. So it's all of this stuff is coming back out, and I think Tiffany Haddish, who she's been in trouble before for saying things and doing things, and remember the thing with Beyonce, and she went out and told that. I think she might be in some trouble. I think her career is going to take a hit.
Nobody's going to want to work with her. Mm-mm. Now, Aries Spears, like you said, he you know, since Mad TV, he really hasn't been. I mean, he's a stand-up comic, so he still does shows, but nobody's going to want to work with her. Tiffany Haddish has been trying to break out of just the stereotypical Black woman characterization to kind of get into. And I saw her in a couple other movies. She was pretty decent in a couple of other films, but it's a stain, man. It's a real stain. It's a real stain when you get that label of child molester as part of your. I mean, nobody's going to forget that. And in this day and time, after we're seeing what's happening with R. Kelly, Epstein, and so many others. In this day and time, you touching little children, you putting little children in vulnerable positions, you violating little children.
But let's take a step back. One thing you missed: she is a black woman. You cannot make any mistake.
No, that's what I'm saying. Check this out.
As a black woman, if you make a mistake, you are done. And
let me tell you something. Here's what I'm telling you. Because we can have this conversation. I'm not going to revisit R. Kelly because that's still happening.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's still happening. I even saw people pulling up, and I don't know if you saw this, Lise. People were talking about The Rock when he was on Saturday Night Live. And he did a skit where he was playing a scientist that created a robot. He said that on how to molest children better. And people are like, yo, if y'all pulling up Tiffany Haddish, how come no point? And I get it. Like, we need to stop it in all ways, but I don't want it to be an either or. Like, it's just crazy, regardless of who is doing it, right? But when I saw that, I'm like, look, for us, here's what's going to help to change and turn the table on this part of the culture. If Black folks say enough is enough, if we get into this ongoing debate, and I know some of us, I want to see the footage. Are we sure she did this? Did the mother did this? You don't need to see why we need to see the tape. You know it exists, because guess what? She acknowledged that she was in it. So at this point, we have to figure out, and this is why it's important. We got to say for us, okay, is the line drawn? Because if we start to get real fuzzy on where we stand with child sex abuse, please don't come at me and talking about children are the future. We can't even have that conversation. You can't be like, well, what did the child, what did it, we know how we do dumbass, what did the child do with the child? Yeah. Don't come at don't you mention, don't open up your damn mouth talking about we got to protect Black children.
Yeah. And we cannot have that conversation where we lose sight of the fact that she was wrong. And she came out and said she was wrong. This was something that shouldn't have ever happened. It shouldn't have ever been done. And now we also have to be very careful as people to not re-traumatize that boy, because that is humiliating for him. If we are recirculating this video with him in it, we are causing some of that residual trauma. And I don't want to be a part of that either. That's why I didn't go watch it. I'm not going to reshare it. It's just something that shouldn't happen, especially since his face is in that video.
It's very wrong. All right, let's go to some of our viewers, because people have been checking in on this, Lise, as everybody has been talking about this situation, Tiffany Haddish, Ari Spears, and I want to try to get some new voices in. Let's start off here with Zoe Bing. You say comedians can take things too far sometimes for laughs. Topics like this should never be made funny. What is wrong with people? I think that's the problem. Like, if you're not going to present the topic, like I don't even see how you could take pedophilia and make it funny.
I don't either, but if you're going to take a controversial topic as a comedian, typically at the end of it, it should come full circle where like you're learning something from it. So if you're going to talk about racism at the end, you should say like racism is bad. Like, but that's not what happened here. It just was, here's a pedophile. And that was it. Like, really? This is what we're doing?
The joint is called through a pedophile's eye. Like, who? And again, Tiffany came out. I'm looking at Ari Spears. I'm like, yo, how come you ain't coming out? Because your ass definitely is in that joint.
I don't think we're gonna see it. We're not gonna see him come out and apologize. I just don't we see how he handled that whole situation with Lizzo. I don't see that happening with this either.
I hope you're wrong, Lise.
I
hope you're wrong. Davey checked in. You said, I mean, she posted a confession in the court of public opinion doesn't matter for perceived guilt. She did post it. She did say she regret being in it. So now we gotta figure out, Davey, is she gonna be in that group? We're gonna put her in the space.
I think that what's going to happen is that you're going to see Tiffany Haddish flip this on Aries Spears. So now, in a legal,
I wouldn't be surprised.
From a legal perspective, as an attorney, now that this video has resurfaced and we know it exists, what's going to happen is now we're going to say this was Aries' idea. This was Aries in the video. I didn't have anything. I just showed up. I'm just here so I don't get fined. That's what you're going to see Tiffany Haddish's legal strategy be from here on out. I hands down. I think that's what's going to happen. So Aries is not going to say anything at all.
Aries knows that this the end of the line, son. Yeah. You already had it with Lizzo. Now this came up. This the end of the line, man.
I think this is why this came up. I think somebody went and found this after what he did with Lizzo, and this is why this is out. Honestly, I think he brought this on himself.
Yes, he definitely did. Sandy, you checked in and said very few comics are untouchable / canceled. Tiffany isn't there yet. Tiffany's still a big name, though. Like, whether you see her as a comedian or not is one thing, but she's still a big name. Everybody knows who Tiffany Haddish is. She has made a huge splash in a very unconventional way. Did you see that video of her talking to Marlon Wayans?
Mm-mm.
Why Marlon Wayans didn't cast her for a film, even though they were looking for a Tiffany Haddish type. And then was interesting because she was guest hosting for Ellen, and this video of her talking to Marlon Wayans, and she said, "Why y'all never casted me for the film?" He was trying to be so, what's the word? He was trying to make sure he used the right word. She said, y'all were looking for a Tiffany Haddish type, and I couldn't even audition for my own self. And it was like a joke. And he was talking about, pretty much told her, we didn't want you because you're not mature enough.
Ooh, that stings a little bit. Okay. That stings a little bit.
When I saw that video last night, I was blown away. I was like, damn. But he had to. I mean, she put him on a spot. So he had to address it. Very interesting. Ming Lee, Natasha Surge, you said the damage has already been done on Tiffany. Meaning what, Ming Lee? Meaning that her career is over. She put herself in this situation, therefore she needs to be canceled. I'm wondering what your thoughts are. Share with me. Let me know. Appreciate you. Sophia, you checked in again. You said, how about we have a better conversation about protecting each other and especially our children? Most definitely. Most definitely. Here's the thing, though. We got to have that conversation, Sophia, and at least you can share with your thoughts on this. But you got to have that. In order to have that conversation, you can't diminish the voice of children or young people who come out to speak their truth.
Mm-hmm.
We can't victim blame. We can't say stuff like, oh, well, why did you wait all this time? Because abuse doesn't happen yesterday, then you start talking about it today. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. What's your take on that?
I agree. I think we do need to have a better conversation about protecting one another. But again, it has to be very, very nuanced from what's right and what's wrong, because technically Tiffany Haddish and Aries Spears are still one of us. So how do we have that conversation where we are holding people accountable but still protecting us? So I think that we can't be afraid to tell people that look like us, that are in our community, that you are wrong. So when we're having that conversation, we still need to be able to hold ourselves accountable.
Right. Absolutely. Vic Wicked, my God, Vic, you said, okay, so my daughters did modeling when they were younger. So who let their kids out of their view? My kid would have never been alone with Robert Kelly. Again, that may be you, Vic, but can you blame? If if people really haven't talked, like again, Tiffany Haddish, you're not thinking Tiffany Haddish would put your child in a situation like this. You don't think that, especially if there's no previous case, there's no talk about it. I hear what you're saying, but if you are famous, you assume there's some level of moral consciousness. There's a morality there. And guess what, folks? Famous people aren't always moral people.
Right.
We crap on poor people, but poor people are some of the most moral people in the world. They live by a certain creed. They might not have the material means, but that don't mean that they're morally bankrupt. Whereas we know for sure that you can be in the world of Hollywood. You can be in those spaces. And your morality can go down the tubes, baby. We know that. So I'm not going to victim blame. I'm not going to blame. I'm going to give the mom the benefit of the doubt because that's human nature. You want to believe that people are decent. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about, for example, the priest in the church, you don't think the priest would violate a child. But guess what? Priests violate children.
Yeah. And that's where it comes back. Like, we have to listen. Like you said, if your child tells you something, you should be there and listen. And we cannot not hold people accountable in our community. And we need to start asking questions. Ask questions no matter who it is. If it is your parents, if you have to ask questions about where your children are, where they're going, and who all gonna be there. I don't care who it is. We have to stop being so trusting because this is how we get into trouble.
Right. Chico Suave, you said Haddish, why? Shame on both of them. Sexual assault, abuse is never something to joke about, let alone take lightly. What the fuck, people? Chico, I'm right there with you, bro. Ryan Lumley, good to hear from you again, Ryan. You said 16 and pregnant, you just can't normalize everything taboo. Yeah, absolutely. Shalinda, you checked in. Ryan, appreciate you. Shalinda, you checked in and said, what do a signed contract have to do with being a pedophile or child molester? Facts. Nobody's willing to sign their child over. And you know, I push back on the parent thing, on the parent argument real bad, Lise, because, you know, you and I are both parents and stuff, right? We try to do the best for our children. No parent. I mean, if you are a decent parent, you're not trying to put your child through trauma intentionally. You want to try to put your child in spaces around people that's going to do right by you and by your children. Nobody intentionally do that. Nobody signs your child over for some damn spotlight. Well, let me just give you my child. What the hell is that?
There's some, like, there are some crappy parents. But I think the majority.
I say, if you're a decent parent, right? Like, if you know, nobody's gonna be just go ahead and just shake that ass, girl, and just.
Like I said, most people know. Most parents are good. Most people are good.
People are decent. I give people the benefit.
People get blinded by fame and money, and the things that you will do for fame and money has changed so many people because they think this could bring my child into stardom, and maybe it will, and it's okay that they did this or XYZ, or they're going to do this. It'll be fine until you realize how it actually impacts your child or exactly what happened. But I will say that it is not okay. We cannot victim blame. It's not the mother's fault. It is the two adults in the room, which was Tiffany Haddish and Ari Spears. They are the ones that should be looked at and held accountable because they made the video.
Absolutely. Rashida, you checked in and said, watch your kids, nieces, and nephews with adults, period. You don't let your guard down now, not even with relatives. That's the ones that let me tell y'all, folks, the number one person who violates children are people that are in their own families. It's not even strangers.
Nope.
It'd be like the ones closest to them.
Mm-hmm.
Your child is so cute. You're so precious. You know what I'm saying? Like, I keep an eye on it. I keep an eye on it, like, especially for little girls. You know what I'm saying? Like, just watch them around. And I mean, you don't have to be paranoid, right? But if you know, this is the thing about me that I never understood about us and our culture, at least. We already know. We hear rumors about certain people in our own families, and we still like, well, you know, that wasn't. And therefore, we put our child into a situation, or we leave our child in a space with the ones that the rumors are sweating, with the uncle, with the brother, hell, with the father.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then this is to all of the women. If you gotta follow your gut, sis, follow your intuition. Follow it.
And boys, and I will say this.
I'm just about to get to that. To the boys, we got to do that. Because I look at my son. When my son go to school, when he around people, I'm like watching his behavior. You know what I'm saying? I'm like looking at him like he's 9. So I'm like, you all right, son? If he's not bubbly after he coming back from a certain situation, you good? When you want to talk about something? Like, you got to pay attention to your children, man. You got to pay attention to them.
And boys they're less likely to report it. So that's why the numbers are so skewed, because a lot of men who've been sexually assaulted as children or abused do not report it, and even as men. So we do need to watch our boys just as much as we watch our girls.
Absolutely. Sandy, you bring up a great point, and I'm glad you did. You said, Farajii, as a parent of an actor's child, a child actor, I can tell you from my own experience, you would be surprised how many parents look past or neglect their welfare to get on TV. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. But here's why. This is my pushback on this, Sandy. When we put our children out there, and at least you know it and I know it, our children, before they get to 10 or 12 years old, we already put them out there on social media. We already put them out there in public spaces, right? We don't know all the time the impact and what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like we so, and you're right, Sandy, because some of us are so, we want to change our financial situation so bad. We want to be in Hollywood. I'm in Los Angeles, and you see it. You want to get your child on TV. You want to get them in the movies and stuff. But you know, and this is a culture right now, we're capitalizing on your children. Because, you know, if you're a child, if you got a young child, like I got a young child, you know, they watching YouTube of other children playing with toys, going to places, doing all these things, right? They got millions of followers. You don't know who the 2 million people are.
Right.
You know where your child's images and likeness is going.
Right.
And we like, oh my God, my child got 2. Look, Nira told me this morning. She was like, yeah, I was looking at one of these little girls. They got 2 black girls on Instagram, got 2.2 million followers on Instagram.
Wow.
Little girls, black girls. And she said, I wonder what the parents are doing. Because they're like influencers or something. And it's like what's the boundary of not trying to capitalize off of your child, right? Because your child got a little talent. Are there any boundaries? Maybe we need to have a different conversation, Lise.
I agree.
I don't know, because I feel like as soon as the child born, there are damn cameras in their face nowadays.
Day one. I agree. You're absolutely right. We do need to have a conversation about that. But I think Sandy brings up a good point, and this is what I was saying. Like, a lot of people will overlook all of that for money. And you see all the stories, Gary Coleman and all of those child stars come out later, and they tell you their parents took their money, they kept making them work, they didn't really want to do it. Because sometimes it's like, whose dream is this? Is this theirs or is this yours? So we do need to have that conversation as well, but let's not shy away from or get sidetracked from the fact that this is wrong.
And and see, we also, the other part of it is when, you know, because of the screen time thing, so your children see other children on TV and getting all these people. And so naturally, right, you can't get mad at them. They want to be famous too.
1 in 4 Gen Z wants to be an influencer now.
My son knows what a YouTuber is.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be famous because that's a natural thing. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be somebody, quote unquote, right? That's essentially what your children are. That's what all of us say. When you're an influencer, you're essentially saying, look, you should watch me. You should listen to me. You should know me. I am somebody. I ain't like the rest of anybody else. I stand out, right? That's a natural desire. And social media plays on the natural to make it unnatural.
Right.
They exploit the natural desire to want to be seen and heard to the point where it's like, oh, you could be seen and heard and followed by millions of people. And it's like, okay, but there's got to be some balance to that. Because when your child seeing other children getting all this love, what naturally do you think they're going to do? I want to be a YouTuber.
Right. Not to mention the free stuff. So
right.
They see that too.
Right. Exactly. Patricia, you said we need to watch the parents. Are they in need? Yeah. Yeah. Because the culture is you want to capitalize off of your children. Your children becomes a commodity. Mm-hmm. We don't see them as children anymore. We see them as assets. You trying to change your life. So you couldn't make the change, Lise. So therefore, my little girl, she can dance. My little girl can sing. My son can play an instrument.
Right. You're going to live vicariously through that child because you didn't make it or you want to have money and be seen. But I think that here, this is a great point. We can both things be true in this situation. I'm not saying that it is. I don't know this mother, Triza Morris, I think is her name. I don't know her from a can of paint. But is it possible that maybe there was a little bit of, hey, I want my kids to be famous. I'm not going to ask too many questions because I want them to be famous. But can that be true, but also be true that Ari Spears and Tiffany Haddish were dead wrong? And that doesn't negate.
Please.
What the mother. Can those two things be true?
Can it be true hey, at least I know where you were going with that. Because I thought you were going to say, can it be true that they lied? Hell yeah. I'm just saying, right? It could be true that they both lied about the situation. Because if they put it out there, hey, we want to use your child for a skit called Through a Pedophile's Eyes, the mom wouldn't be like, oh, that sounds like a funny skit. Oh, my son and daughter would be perfect for that.
Yeah, well, what mother says that?
What decent mom?
Right.
Is going to say that, right? So they didn't include that part. They said, according to what we know right now, a sketch. And there was even talk about this sketch could be the stepping stone to get them on Nickelodeon. Yep. See? You using all of you hitting all of the buttons now. You got the relationship. You're talking about access. You're talking about putting your child in a space where they can get famous. It's that's the grooming part. That's the part of, and that's what they were saying on the on that show. Keep Between Us is talking about grooming can happen for both the child and for the parents.
I'm gonna have to watch that. I don't. You said it's on HBO Max.
I didn't watch it all because I couldn't take. I mean, after reading Tiffany Haddish, didn't watch it. I was like, bro,
it was too much. It's too much for you.
I can't go to bed with this on my spirit, right?
Right.
But it's like you're grooming the parents just as much.
It starts with the parents. No. It starts with the parents to allow you the trust to be around the kid. And I think that's what a lot of parents don't realize is that those relatives or friends or people in the community that want to be an abuser will start to befriend you. And then you just to become trustworthy, like, oh, I trust him or I trust her. And then this is what happened. It starts with the parents. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Chris V, you said I could see a lot of parents turn a blind eye to what has happened to their kids in the pursuit of fame and money. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's an ongoing thing. And I think as we wrap up this conversation, Lise, we really, my hope is And I know some people are saying, is this all of the information? Well, we will have to see, because right now we're getting some, we know what the Jane Doe is saying.
Mm-hmm.
We know what Tiffany Haddish had admitted to being a part of, even though her people are saying this is bogus. She's saying it ain't bogus. She just said, I regret it. We haven't heard from Ari Spears, but as of right now, folks, based on all of the details and what we know, it does not sound good for Tiffany Haddish and Ari Spears. It does not sound kosher. Now, I'm with, going back to your point, Lise, I think Tiffany going to flip on Aries. I think she's going to say, hey, Aries was really the driving force behind this idea. But that still does not mean that she's not held responsible, because even if you say, all right, he's the one that came up with the idea, he had to explain the idea to you. Hey, Tiffany, you're going to be the mother of this child, and I'm going to be the touchy-feely uncle, or I'm going to be the touchy-feely babysitter. Like, there had to be something. Oh, yeah, that's kind of funny. There had to be something. Because it's hard for me to believe you came into that situation blind. He ain't tell you the title. He ain't tell you the what was going to happen in the sketch. He ain't tell you none of that. No, sis. Nah, sis. And this is not me trying to beat up on a black woman either. This is just me simply saying we think that certain things are so funny. We don't take pain. We don't take people's struggle and trauma. We really don't respect trauma in this country. We don't respect victims. We don't respect trauma. Because why? Well, because if it's coming from a high profile celebrity person, it ain't trauma. It's a misunderstanding. And that's the part. That's the part. And I think for us as black people, since this is happening by our own black celebrities, we got to have a different conversation about pedophilia, and we got to have it about sex abuse and making sure we create a space for victims. At least you got the final word. What you want to say, sis?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. We have to make sure that we're listening to our children, women, men, whoever. If someone comes to you, I believe the victim first until proven otherwise. And in this situation, I think we should just sit back and see what happens. Ari Spears' attorney, Miss Opry, came out and said he won't be, shaken down. So we just have to wait and see how this plays out. If there's not a settlement, I would be shocked.
If there's right. And if this is true, if her intent was if this is all true for real, true, she needs to be canceled. I don't care how funny she was in Girls Trip.
So here's my thing with cancel. I don't believe I've said this on Millennials Anonymous 50 million times. You can't cancel a person unless you neutralize them.
Here's what I'm saying.
But she needs to be supported. Correct. She needs to take a seat. There you go.
She needs to take a seat. Nah, sis, you're done. Thank you.
Stadium full of seats, and have a seat.
You're done. You don't no. We don't need to hear no more from you. You're done.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. Cancel in terms of no, you can't. I'm just saying you shouldn't be given a platform. We shouldn't support your work. We shouldn't come to your shows. We shouldn't buy your products. You're done. And we got to draw the line.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ari Spears. Don't go to her shows.
Agreed. I think that one will be easier for people, though.
Right. Right. For Tiffany Haddish, we're like, well, she's still no.
When Girls Trip 2 come out, I think people gonna be. They're gonna have.
How much you want to bet? They ain't going to cast in Girl Trip 2.
I agree with that. 1,000%. They're gonna call Marlon Wayans, whoever he got.
You really think? And I'm not saying you, Lise. You really think Jada, Queen Latifah, you think they gonna really?
Nah.
Girl, you got a scarlet. That's gonna be like you got a scarlet letter. I ain't saying no movie with you, girl. Shit.
Yeah, they gonna call Marlon Wayans to get that Tiffany Haddish impersonator.
She done. And guess what? I don't have no tears for her. I wouldn't have no tears for the sister. I wouldn't have no tears for her. You done. You
don't sit down and write a script out.
No.
See what's happening, read it, and say, let's record this.
No, we don't play those games on this side. That's not good for the culture at all. Accepting abuse is not good for the culture. Creating trauma in children is not good for the culture. I don't care who it's from. It's just not good for the culture. It's not good for us and for our mental health. It's not good for our culture, man. That's unacceptable. Once you cross that line, you're done. You're dead.
Yeah,
that's it.
Right.
That's it. Because if it was your child, you'd be screaming and yelling for justice. How can the people accept them when they done this to my child? That's why we don't want to have none of that. You're done. All right. Speaking of being done, Lise, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I always appreciate you. Thank you for checking in, having a conversation with me. Look forward to reconnecting with you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, folks. Lise Winnie checking in from Millennials Anonymous Podcast. Check her out on all streaming platforms. That's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you for having a conversation. I didn't expect these big conversations to go the way they go, take up that time, but sometimes it goes like that. And more importantly, sometimes we just need to have those discussions. So make sure y'all continue to tune in. Make sure y'all support us here on the Black Star Network. Brother Roland put out a message, was it yesterday, Labor Day, saying that we had officially been on air for 1 whole year, thanks to you. So let me give you a warm round of applause. Thank you for your support. Continue to show us support, blackstarnetwork.com. We are on our goal, on our drive to get as many subscribers and to get as many folks to buy into the idea of Black media. So we want to thank you, and we invite you to continue to support us here at Black Star Network as we're doing the great work of having the conversations and including you into this conversation, especially here on the culture. We include you into the space, and we do it each and every day intentionally because we want to make sure that you understand the power of your voice, not just ours, but you understand the power of your voice. So again, blackstarnetwork.com. All right, folks, stay tuned at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. There's Big Brother Roland Martin with RMU, Roland Martin Unfiltered. I thank each and every one of you. Tomorrow, we're expected to talk to Dr. Melina Abdullah from Black Lives Matter because they have another issue of leadership and money. We're going to have that conversation about that and so much more. And we'll continue to have the discussions about politics, about, what is the next step for Black America as we try to forge our political path in a moment of great division and partisanship. So we're going to continue to have those discussions, but y'all know how I'm feeling. We need to figure out something else. We need to create an alternative path that's truly going to be representative of where we are and the interest that we have on the table. We can't wait anymore. The urgency of now is upon us. So we need to take full advantage of it. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Thank you for tuning in, family. Have a great afternoon and evening. Peace.